All right. So now you're getting a lesson in Demonology 101. Yeah. I don't have to read demons about demonology because I'm living in a world full of fucking demons right now. Like, seriously, a world full of demons. And the state-sanctioned demon slayers, the demon developers, the demon charmers are all in the medical holistic energy healing world. And people are freaking out. And they don't know where the demons are coming from. They don't know they're in industries or patronizing industries, developing more demons, not only in their children, but also in their own family, in themselves, and in people around them. And how is that, Jillian? Oh my gosh, that's such a crazy claim to make, because demonology comes from fertility. Demonology comes from proteins and entities and life forms that are trained to do a specific thing. And sometimes they're trained to destroy and trained to maim and also trained to do a job that is building the infrastructure or wreaking havoc, causing chaos, not only within the person's body, but also the environment and in their community. And so I'm sure I can relate to those who can't even wrap their mind around the kind of demonology they play within when there are so many distractions. There are events and gatherings and parties and traditions and so many things, so that way you never pay attention to the demons within and or even look at what you're cultivating as an offspring. And how did I figure this out? Well, we know sexuality. Now, the system mainstream what is the right type of sexuality, and that would be something based on the 1950s with very specific hormone distribution and social constructs around gender, man, woman, whatever, the nuclear family. And so when that was normalized as a platform, a benchmark to work from, anything that would not emulate that or anything that would not be even remotely similar to that would then be looked at as demonic, as satanic, as not right, and all of that. And then you get the wars. But then what I figured out, because we know the Catholic Church understands demonology, we understand what the Nephilim were way back when, if you want to look at the Bible. The Catholic Church is in both the medical holistic energy healing world and in Christianity. And of course, the Rosicrucian has not only the Christian Gnostics, but the Jewish mystics, you know, the Egyptians and the Romans and the Greeks. But they understand demonology, and they understand what children are. When you think about the offspring, whether it's microbial, you have the cancer, and you have through mediums the ectoplasm. You have all the horror movies, and you have the doctors that are demon slayers, and you have the nurses that are, you know, working with them, and you have all the energy healing people who are the ones that go and try to talk to your demons, the psychotherapists, the hypnotists, the massage therapists, you know, the naturopathics, the homeopathics, the osteopathics. And then I remember when I was in San Francisco, back in my 20s, hanging out with this chick who was my best friend at the time. Her name was Teresa. I don't know where she is now. I have lost touch with her, but she took me to the Berkeley Psychic Institute, and I was dating around, having fun, doing what my demons were telling me to do. And they did a free reading on me. And so there was a panel of people, of psychics, clairvoyants, that were looking at both my friend and I's aura. So I went up and stood, and the clairvoyants were doing chakra readings. They were looking at my aura, and they were saying, well, I see a lot of energy, ectoplasm. I see a lot of energy in the lower chakras. And they were mainly around my reproductive area. And I'm like, no shit. Well, what do you take from that? How do you even respond to that? How do you even process that? Okay, what is that? I don't even know what that meant. I mean, the Berkeley Psychic Institute, which is something that my friend was interested in because she was she went to college in the military with me. And I was just kind of following her, and I was just looking up to her. She was like an older sister to me, and I always wanted to be like her. That's why I went to college and got a bunch of student loans in the beginning, tried to go to the college she went to, but that really wasn't my future. And eventually we did break up as friends. But that was a memory of the demon that was within. The sex demons, the reproductive demons, the seducer. And that's all over California. And that's in both the Republicans and the Democrats. Because Republicans, they want to have children. The women are hot. Of course they are. You see them in the Trump campaign. The women are hot. The arm candy to their political husbands. And then even the left. Hot women that are in the industries. Doing science, doing everything. Politics, religions. Okay? And there is so much demonology all over California, all over both the left and the right, everywhere. So that was an interesting introduction to demonology before I even knew that's what it was. And then I realized that yes, now you could be programmed visually. So if you have been trained, when you're a child and your parents do not expose you to violence, then they're also not going to be too heavy-handed, because when you have programmed violence, when you're seeing visual violence or when you're exposed to violence, and then you're heavy-handed, yeah, you'll develop serial killers. So we have people who have been programmed to see images and to obviously take on social constructs. And that's why the movies like American Graffiti, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, American Pie, they, of course, sexualize the girls and the boys. And then they go and do what they see on TV, because that's a social construct. And so then the ectoplasm, the demon, gets developed from the hormones, from the friction of energy. And so then that's how the girls get programmed in our society to not only be so sexualized, but also to think that now it's time to develop a family. And so that's on both the left and the right. And that is demonology. Sexual orientation, regardless, is demonology. Developing families, and you have no idea the kind of spirits that are within, like the kind of demons, you think about it, that are within your family, within your child, within your husband, your wife. You don't know what kind of background they have. You have no idea what's being passed on from generation to generation. And so then when the demons come out, and that would be cancer, disease, and chronic illness and autoimmune disorders, then you are using the medical holistic system and even the surgical system to go and control those demons, or carve them out, or find other types of demons to go and control the out of control demons. And that's the string of prescription drugs, herbal remedies, and even energy healing type of people who are playing with your chakras. And even the religious. See, that was also part of the Catholic Church. When you're doing exorcisms and there's demons inside that are quite the opposite. That's why there's the upside down cross, and you see in some of these movies. And then you see the symbol of a priest that is using the upside right cross and trying to balance out and even flush out the demon from that person if they can handle that energy conversion of releasing the literal demons. And so that's essentially what the J world is. I'm not a demon developer. I'm not even a demon slayer. I don't want to destroy any demons. I want to release them. I want to set them free. And let them go find another host that will open up their system and house them in. And I stay far away from those that hold so many demons, because they have a habit of jumping from person to person. That's why they wore the masks in the beginning, when the environment became so aggressive that people's demons were at the surface. And yeah, they could jump from person to person and cause an upset of homeostasis. Yeah, people blame the V's. Well, that's just one factor. It's no different than being around your friends and family, inhaling the ectoplasm. That's what was so interesting. When I Googled ectoplasm, why did I do that? What precipitated the last, 20 posts on my Facebook? Or the last 5 or 6 or 10? I'm watching Insidious. Okay, I'm watching The Haunting of Connecticut. And these are the movies on Netflix. I don't watch too much of the reality murder shows because that's a little bit too close to home because we know those people are around you in society. But I'm watching these shows of hauntings and Insidious, number 3. And yeah, when the beginning of the movie showed that Dalton, who grew up, who was possessed and then was taken into the further, and then his dad was then going into the astral projection into the other side to go and find his son and save him from that spirit that took over his son's body. Okay, and then he was hypnotized into forgetting this. Okay, so both the dad, and he divorced, the mother and the father divorced, but the son was also hypnotized into forgetting that situation, that that he was possessed, and that whole battle of saving him from the other side. And so the son goes to college, and he is drawing stuff. He has a very good slate or a good hand at drawing. And so the artist medium, the one that taught the class, said, okay, draw based upon what's inside. Open up the door, unlock the key, unlock the door that holds these memories that you probably aren't even aware of that you hold, and draw those. And so he was drawing the memory of what he was hypnotized to forget. And that's when he unlocked the door and opened and entered into the realm of the demon kingdom. And there was demons that even the father held that came to the surface. And so what they're trying to show you is people do hold these demons of the past traumas that they're trying to forget through drugs and alcohol and sex, but their demons are in there and they're manifesting in behaviors. Those are the demons that people hold, and you have to actually face them. And that was the message in Insidious 3. And then of course, the ectoplasm. Now, where did I think about ectoplasm? Because I'm just thinking about the things that are coming out of people. Like, I don't know where that even triggered me to go and Google ectoplasm and Google the pictures of ectoplasm. But that's what it is. When I went to the restaurant with my husband, so on Friday, we wanted to go on a date night, and we did. And he had sushi, and I had some kind of beef dish. And I already had the hives because the environment has increased, accelerated. So I had hives. I was already energetic. We go out to eat, and I'm feeling just giddy. Now, not as drunk and vertigo-ish like I did a few years ago, but I was feeling like I'm under the influence of something. Now, it wasn't alcohol. I wasn't drinking alcohol, and all I was doing was eating. I wasn't even that hungry because I ate before he came home, because I wasn't eating that Friday. I was doing my Facebook Live, and then I ate something, and he came home around 3 or 4 o'clock, and after I posted the video and typed what I typed, then I went and made some spaghetti, and so I ate that. So I really wasn't hungry, but I was in that restaurant just hanging out with him, and it wasn't even that full. It was actually just a few people in that restaurant. It wasn't full. But I noticed that I was coughing. I was developing growth. I was actually inhaling ectoplasm. When you think about that, when you go into any kind of crowded room, crowds, concerts, closed spaces, like they said even a couple years ago when the whole pandemic, they're like, you should open a window, be in a more of an open space, because when you go in a highly accelerated environment, then they knew it was highly accelerated. Okay, the system knew. Of course, they told you climate change. And people are releasing their demons, coughing, sneezing, eating. They're just breathing stuff out, and you can't even see it. But you can smell it sometimes. People have bad breath, or they're eating food and they're releasing. And that is a type of ectoplasm, and it comes into your mouth. You breathe it in. You might even eat it if you're in a restaurant or drinking alcohol. because people talk and they spit. There is an aerosolized ectoplasm. And so when you think about the orbs, and remember that show The Upside Down from Stranger Things, that's ectoplasm. There's a supernatural side of it that they have recorded back in the 1800s. Those are the photos. And then there's a biological side of it. That's like in an amoeba and all. It's like the amniotic fluid in a baby in a uterus, or in a uterus when it's the baby's going through gestation. So it's a viscous type of fluid. But when people are talking, when they're talking to you, and you're in a crowded room full of people, like I've been in a crowded room full of people, and I feel my whole head like full of the environment, causing microbial fornication, causing mucus development and ideas. And I remember I had that whole fear of, like, because somebody in our world, husbands died, and she's left on her own. She's like by herself. Though, yes, she has friends, a lot of friends. And her husband was very prominent in the veterans, in the VFW world. But she's by herself, and realizing how much a husband does, how much the other person does for a person when they're missing, when they're gone, and then you have to take care of the things that they took care of. That's a wake-up call. That's a major wake-up call. I mean, so when I went to the restaurant and we're talking about, like, damn, what would happen if my husband was gone? What would happen if I was gone? My husband would be able to take care of this stuff. But I'll tell you, we don't have a huge property, thank God. I don't want a huge property. I want something that I can maintain in case something like that would happen, because I don't want to depend upon the world out there to keep me going. I've got to be able to do it myself, and it has to be appropriate. It doesn't make sense to take on a huge property and having one person just do almost everything. The other person kind of helps out, because I'm not chopping wood. There's no way I'm going to freaking chop wood. And so I figure out what it is that my husband does, and I'm going to learn how to put seals on a bathroom thing, stuff like that. So I'm learning what to do during wintertime. Turn off the spigot over there outside in the house, So that, being in that environment and taking on all that ectoplasm in that restaurant, coming home and my head feeling full. And I'm blowing my nose and coughing. I was blowing my nose. And I was watching movies too. I was watching like stuff from the 1970s. Okay? And that's when I wrote about women. You better figure out what you can do, what you can handle in case your husband is gone. And you need to know how to check in with the world. Because I think John was talking about checking. He doesn't have to check in with anybody. Yeah, he's a dude. He doesn't have to. He's pretty much self-sufficient. Unless he falls into a well or something. But women need to check in with their community. I don't hang out with a lot of people. I don't have a friends base like that. And I purposely decided not to. I could have cultivated people. But there's a cost to that. I don't want to depend upon anyone if I don't have to. And if I have to depend upon someone, I want to pay them for their time. And so if I could do it myself, that's better off. You bring in the professionals if the job is too big. So anyway, so I was thinking about that, and I wrote a whole thing about that. And I was thinking about, wow, the microbial fornication of taking in ectoplasm, developing mucus, because then Friday night, Saturday morning, oh my God, I was blowing my nose so much. I could feel the growth develop so quickly that if I had a closed system, I probably would have had a heart attack, stroke, or had a major cold, or died from who knows what, drowning in my own mucus. Because there was so much I had to blow out. Kept blowing, it kept blowing out, blowing. The last couple nights, I've been blowing out so much of the offspring. So the ideas were the offspring of the environment, okay? The mucus was the body. Those are the demons. Release the demons. Imagine if you don't release those demons. You get the ideas, yes. People do get the ideas when they're around different people and different things because of that microbial fornication, the chemical conversion, and then natural people get ideas or they just get spurred or energetic in something, but they don't release the little bodies. And so those little bodies, little entities turn into cancer, disease, chronic illness, autoimmune disorders if they're not allowed to release the way it's supposed to through the immune system. And so that's when I figured out, oh my God, the ectoplasm. And it's aerosolized. It's not, so see, here's the thing. When you see those pictures of the 1800s of them doing seances and the ectoplasm's coming out of the nose, the ears, right? Coming out of like even the chest cavity. But they were also talking about ectoplasm that's in the gynecological ectoplasm, which then the doctors have measured nymphomania, like sexual nymphomania and hysteria in women and in men. Okay? And so then you really realize those demons, I'll tell you what, those demons, they are very influential. And you have no idea what really actually runs you until you feel the pain of the body pushing those demons out and releasing them. And that's through coughing and sneezing, blowing your nose, and even pulling out the crap. Like, and sometimes you get bigger. So when I went to that party last summer, and I drank 3 shots of alcohol, so yes, that also developed, I felt bloated, but even being around people, you can cause that kind of aggressive microbial fornication offspring and you get bloated. And that also has to be released. So then when Pip was saying that, yeah, that's a great way of saying that you have a head full of environment. Absolutely, I had a head full of environment. There was so much growth and evolution, development. And yes, you get great ideas. When I get the hives and I'm typing, that's growth and development, ideas, innovation. And it's like, wow, you can pick up on things so quickly. You can learn things so quickly because of the energy conversion. And then you also release the demons. You also release the byproducts. But people don't. And those byproducts actually turn into separate entities in the body. It can turn into a child, or it can turn into a cancerous type of thing. Then you bring in the medical system to either radiate it out. And that's when I showed you that picture of that lady who died. Very skinny. She's against milk, vegan, vegetarian. And she had some kind of aggressive lung cancer. And she showed you what the radiation did, the targeted approach. And so then that then makes the person weaker. But that's the demon slayers in the medical system. But then you have the holistic system, that their idea of managing disease is develop another demon to control it. What's the other demon? It's the cannabis world. It's all the remedies, the surgery, well, it's not surgery, remedies. The elderberry syrup, the turmeric, the honey, the apple cider vinegar. All the different spices, using food as medicine. What do you mean using food as medicine? Because you're saying eat food, Jillian. Yeah, I don't add aggressive elements to my food to activate them, to turn them against the body and attack the immune system. No, people put very aggressive, influential, not even salt, like aggressive heavy metals attached to other elements, like certain acids, alkaloids. That's what it is. People attach alkaloids to certain things to make things way more aggressive, to cause an offspring, or you would call it an antibiotic, a natural antibiotic. Plant alkaloids. Okay? And so that's how the holistic system has decided how to manage demons, is to develop new ones. So they get sort of a little bit of relief for a second until then there's antibiotic resistance. There's a new demon now that's going to plague you, and the body's trying to push that one out. So then what happens, yes, is the holistic system compounds the issue. The medical system, they're just damaging you, but what else are you going to fucking do? You have a demon within, and you have a sluggish immune system, and you're afraid of food. What else are they going to freaking do? So you either damage the parent cells trying to get to that demon offspring, or you starve the parent cells and the offspring so the person is skinny as hell and they die from the treatment, or you develop new demons. You either have a kid or then you are developing more demons in the body to keep the ones that you don't want to deal with at bay until you die from so much demonology with it. That's what you're dealing. That's the demonology world. That's fertility. That's sexual orientation on all ends. It's some crazy shit. Okay? And the fact that I was raised in a household that understood this. Not that they told me in so many words. Who's they? My parents. They wouldn't tell me this. People who study the Kabbalah, Jewish mystics, that's not something that you readily share. That's esoteric information. You don't share that with just anyone. That's something that you understand as you get older. When you're about 50. When you have enough life experience behind you to see then what happens in families, in friends. Assuming that you even get that choice, that opportunity for mental clarity if you're not too far gone. Still fighting the war within, just trying to survive. I'm beyond survival now. I'm just thriving at this point. I already built the world that I want. So that way I can actually see the world that I live in. But if you're too busy trying to survive and fight the battles of the demons, whether it's your friends, your family, your children, your ex-husband or current husband or wife, and people's traumas, when you're too busy trying to save the world around you, you're not going to understand this. There's no fucking way. You would never study esoteric material. If anything, it would be like entertainment to you. Like my information is entertainment. Watching the movies, entertainment. It's not something you'd have a connection with. Because you get the luxury to go and have the distractions, the traditions. And there's so much agreement around that. So there's no reason for someone to study that side of the world, because what kind of return on that investment would they get? If they're not going to actually live indefinitely and win those battles, they're not even going to look at this world, because it's a reality that they're going to realize that they have absolutely no control over, and it's just better to be distracted. And I completely fucking understand that. But in the J world, if you actually want to live and survive the demons of everything in your society, you have to look at this. You have to face your own demons. You have to feed yourself. You have to figure out, you're not going to save everybody. You could have 10 kids, and maybe one out of those 10 kids would survive. If at all. You'd have to be okay with that and come to terms with that. That might be the reality. You have 5 kids, 3 kids, and maybe one out of those 3 kids might survive this energy conversion and might actually get it and be old enough to get it. And if that's not a reality, then this information would just be way too traumatic. It'd be another trauma on them. That's why I say, if my information really is offensive to you and whatever you stand for, please block and delete me. Remember, I'm not imposing my information on anybody because I know how aggressive it is. And it's right in your face. There's some pretty offensive types of words even that I'm using that people don't normally use in the everyday language. Okay, like incest. Who ever use that unless you're in the psychotherapy world? But I've known people who work with victims of that. That's demonology. And people do that to not only their own family, their own children, or other minors out there. That's demonology. People hold those demons within. Could they release them? They potentially could, but they may not survive. It just depends on what kind of infrastructure they have in their world, in their body, mind, and spirit. That's why the jail system is so huge, full of people, because there's so many people who have been traumatized on so many levels, and they could potentially release those demons, but would they have the support system? Would they even understand what that actually means? The system is not equipped to have millions of people release their demons all at once. That's why they came down to me, and I understand that now. I mean, I'm not upset about what happened a couple years ago. I totally understand why they came down to me so hard back in 2018. Because I was releasing demons, and the system was not ready for that. They were preparing for that in 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. They were developing the infrastructure, developing the transition, but I preempted it. The whole J-World preempted that whole thing, and I was releasing demons, and you saw how aggressive those demons were flying around. Whether the orbs of the ectoplasm in my own world that you could pick up on the electronics, or it was the attacks, the spiritual attacks, the email attacks, the trolls, the calling of the cops, calling of the ASPCA, the calling of the CIA, Interpol, I don't know, the president, okay? Yeah, the system was not prepared for the demons to be released at the time that we were releasing them with the J juice. We were activating people's immune system and freeing the demons, but the people weren't equipped to deal with them. That's what the medical system was for, was to control people's demons. Demonology, it's everywhere. It's in all religions. Ectoplasm. Okay? And that's why I have a picture of that girl on my cover page. Because remember, you saw the Imhotep, and that was the 2700 BCE of Imhotep, 20 years old, who was groomed to deal with doing alchemy and architecture and chemistry and physician stuff, surgical, and doing all the concoctions, and of course anesthesia, because when you're cutting into someone, they have to be under the influence. And so I was graduating from Imhotep, and then going into then Genghis Khan, because there is that lineage that I'm part of, the Genghis Khan, the Mongols, and all the warriors of the Middle Ages, Tartaria. And then now, here we are. Now we're in the ectoplasm, the fertility, the demons. That's the reason why for the medical system, the surgical system. And so you see the picture of this viscous type of energy that's cloudy, that does take on certain forms. And it looks all crazy, like a mishmash of spiritual energies. And then you see the children, or the little zombies, little goblins. People call them crotch goblins. Even the left-wingers, who are all about the pro-V, go get a V, and they're calling their own children crotch goblins. They're already acknowledging that they develop demons out of their own vagina. It's already in the language. They call their own children crotch goblins. You see the agreement already? And that was from some of the people that were actually critical of me. She called her own kids crotch goblins. Go get your crotch goblins immunized. That's how they refer to their own children and all the children out there. They know it's already built into the population. And so that picture showing that ectoplasm of a viscous type of mishmash of energy. And I don't say it's evil or whatever. That's just energies, spirits, aerosolized ectoplasm. And then she has the children around her. The little crotch goblins, right? Some crazy shit, man. And so I said demonology, ectoplasm, sexuality, fertility, microbes, disease, cancer. And I said, read those two posts of incense. Incense, I used to burn that actually when I was in California. We'd go to Annapurna over there in Berkeley on Telegraph Avenue. And I'd buy just like some of the accessories, like scarves or table covers, and they were all like psychedelic type. And then there was these incense sticks that we would burn all the time. And that causes, people say they get allergic to it. Yeah, because you're developing offspring from that. People sneeze. They develop so much growth from that. But it also wakes up certain demons within. It's like you're screwing yourself with these energies. You're having sex with these. It's a trip because those incense sticks do cause offspring. It's a type of fornication. It's like an ectoplasm. It's talking to the gods within. Okay, what are these gods? The hormones. And I already knew this many years ago. I just know how to say it. But the hormones are a type of like gods, like Aphrodite, Hermes, any of them, the different demigods and Greek mythological gods. Then you have the four humors that developed people's personalities, sanguine, depression, anger, and then neutrality, okay? And so I knew that people held, that's also too in a movie I just saw, Copland. No, it wasn't Copland. It was 13 Hours, the whole thing with Benghazi. And the guy was saying that, yes, we hold all the gods within. We hold the kingdoms and realms and gods within our body. They slipped that into that show or that movie, 13 Hours, where their version of events of Benghazi in Libya. Or no, Libya, yeah. I started watching, I couldn't watch the whole thing. I mean, I was watching, that's pretty violent. And I knew 4 Americans died during Benghazi, and I liked the actors, and I didn't want to see any of them die, so I just didn't watch the end because I didn't want to be depressed. I don't know, because if I was getting attached to the main guys that were in that, and the ones that were watching the Americans, I wasn't really attached to. So if they died, I wouldn't be so bad. But if the ones that I was attached to died, I would just feel bad. So I just didn't watch the end. But they did slip that in, that people hold the kingdoms, the gods within them. And that's why I was saying demonology and alchemy and witchcraft is in every single religion out there. Hebrews, Jehovah's Witness, Judaism, Muslim, what else? Paganism, every single religion that worships and does stuff where they are worshiping community and family and holidays, regardless of what they are. And they're hanging out together and they're using remedies on each other. And they're into big families. It's all alchemy, witchcraft, demonology. And people are like, oh my God, that's so blasphemous. Not really, because that's how it was intended. That's how they were able to get so many people to procreate, because you gave them a religion that they had some kind of a relationship to, and then you bred that in genetic lines for years until it becomes normal. And then all these different religions were basically similar, but they had players that they could say, well, this is evil and this is good. Playing the good versus evil, the black versus white, the checkerboard square, positive and negative. That's how the system was able to balance out and play both sides of the fence and even change the meanings or change the perceptions around something. So that's how they're able to flip the poles, okay? Before, it's great to have a family, and it was, you live to be 80 years old, you have a whole formula and milestones to reach and holidays and birthdays, and that's great. People are okay with dying again someday, but then you make the atmosphere that much more aggressive. Now, it may not be so lucrative to have a bunch of people in your family. It may not be so lucrative to hang out with a bunch of people. It may not be so lucrative to do what you used to do 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 years ago. Now everything has changed. Everything has changed. Even how people perceive even the V's. Developing more fertility. If people can't afford it, then but then they hang out with their friends and family and taking all their different medications, causing fertility. So then what's the difference then? If you take a V or if you take an elderberry syrup or ivermectin, okay? And so then I was saying, so incest develops the offspring, and then incense, and then incest is waking up the demons in your own kids. That's what happens. And so you can have a programming where it wakes up the demons, but you're not touching your kids like that. But what happens is when those demons are developed visually through all the social constructs, and then out there in the environment, somebody does something to your child, whether they're 15, 16, 18, or 20, then they reinforce that demon to wake up. And so that's kind of what the system was doing, was they would make sure the social constructs were there, like in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. But if they were exposed to other people who had the same programming and they engaged in sex like they do in high school, well, that's what they developed, those demons in high school. That's why I had the single mom syndrome. But if you didn't want your kid to do that right away, you develop the social constructs by keeping them away from violent images. Be heavy-handed on the discipline. You're not doing anything to the child per se, but there are certain things that reinforce so many different things, and I'm not getting into that. But just lifestyle and all that, and imagery like in paintings, all right? But then when that child leaves and goes somewhere or then waits until they're 18 or 19, that demon, and they have sex with somebody, and it was consensual, that demon woke up. And so that's how the system was able to sexualize girls without actually breaking the law. Because already the society around that person was already going to do it at some point. It was just a matter of time. And that's some crazy fucking shit. That was the 80s, 90s, 2000s. So I could say, no crimes were committed against me as a child. But my parents already knew the system around me was predatory. They knew eventually I was going to meet somebody that was going to, was going to be like, hey, you're a virgin, right? They already knew that was going to happen. And so, but there's other things that doesn't necessarily break the law, but you're just like, fuck, that's some pretty shitty shit. But it's not discipline, with kids, it's a fine line. And some people have a heavier handed parents than others. And so, but yes, when the system has programmed people who are watching Fast Times at Ridgemont High, who are watching all of these sexualized movies, and these kids are having sex in high school, and there is like bathhouses in San Francisco, and there's prostitutes, and there's so many things, yeah, you're going to have so much of the sexual orientation and also diseases that go along with that. Okay, so, but that's been going on for years, but that's part of the depopulation agenda, is the excessive fertility, the excessive demon developing, the excessive sexual orientations. And you couldn't discriminate. That's why the system did not want you to discriminate against any type of sexual orientation if you happen to be straight, because you would also not be acknowledging your own demonic practices, even as a straight person, developing demons in your own children and in yourselves. And so that's why I said read those two definitions. Read it and consider their relationship. I'm telling you, there is so much of the spirit world within alchemy. Fertility, demons, demon possession, all the different sexual orientations, all of them. And then having children. And why there is so much sexual predation everywhere. And so, then that's also the whole fertility and sexuality is all trauma bonding. That's all it is. Even those who are single are trauma bonded into their relationships with their friends, their family, their politics, their religion, their science. You know how I know a person is healed? When they can walk away from society and not give a shit about hanging out with people who can be on their own and want to study, giving up sex, if that's possible, have released their demons. There's no addictions, no needing for remedies, no alcohol addiction, no drug addiction, has streamlined their own body processes, no excessive needing of entertainment, healing. When you actually have healed, it's a whole different, you wouldn't even mention trauma. I had never even mentioned trauma bonding. That's not even a word that comes out of me. I only learned that context when I read somebody's post about how they're single and they've healed, and the only way they know they're healed because they're single, they don't need to be trauma bonded or anything. But are they by themselves? Do they have a family? Do they have family and friends around them? Do they require some kind of company from an animal? See, trauma bonds look like those who have animals and pets and children and grandchildren and all that stuff. See, that's the thing. And so how do you finally become actually healed? When everyone that you've been trauma bonded has died off and you're by yourself, and then you're developing your own path. You don't have any kind of addictions. You understand what fertility is within your own body, or the growth from frequency changes. And then when you go out there in public and you're taking on the ectoplasm and you're releasing the demons, and you are studying something. Maybe if you do want to go and visit people, you visit them because you like hanging out and you talk about stuff. And maybe that is a trauma bond. Even talking to a person, because what are you bonding on? Past traumas, unless you're working on something for the future. So then what are you bonding on? Past traumas, or are you learning about what they're doing? You're learning something. So it's even what it is, what your relationship is based on, and how it's developed. Okay? And so, yeah, anyone that plans to die someday, when you're single, you're still trauma bonded to the world. It's already built into someone who believes they should die someday. And if they're in politics, religion, and science. Dogmas. So I had to look at that, and I saw that about single and trauma bonding and all that shit. And so, yeah. So I'm not gonna read. I just posted that. I'm gonna read this now. But so yeah, that song Shakespeare's Sister, yeah, that came from Insidious 3. That was actually the last song when it was rolling the credits, and I just caught the 3 words, and I liked the tune. I didn't listen to it that long. Usually, when you get the end of a movie, you just go and turn it off and go to the next thing. But I listened to 3 chords, and I was instantly going like, okay, that's going to be a song for this thing about ectoplasm and hanging out in crowds. Okay? Because yes, what is incense? Incense is manifesting the presence of the gods. Fragrance can be said to manifest the presence of the gods. Incest, manifesting the presence of the gods in their own child. And so incest is alchemy. It's all alchemy, fertility. Okay? And also cannabis is alchemy. And so I'm not going to read that. I already read that. And of course, yeah, I talk about that. I'm not going to say that. And I said what drove people together will drive them apart during climate change unless one balances. Whatever that means, right? And thanks, Audrey, for that Godsmack. I don't listen to Godsmack. That was some pretty heavy stuff, but I like the lyrics. That was what she was posting, was the lyrics. And so, yeah, ectoplasmic chakra readings, the Berkeley Psychic Institute. Yep, the basis of chakra readings are reading people's demons. That's exactly what the chakra stuff is. People hold demons, demon energy. And so, on or about 1894, communication from the spirit world changed with the emergence of ectoplasm, a term invented by Nobel laureate and French physiologist Charles Richet. It was an often glutinous substance that emerged from various parts of the medium's body. At times, these globulous wandering projections were purported to tip tables. Serpentine ropes of the stuff would emerge from the medium's ear to rest in fat coils rolls on her shoulder, and embryonic limbs and heads would drop like otherworldly stillbirths from the medium's genitals. Holy shit. I found that because of that picture you posted with the ectoplasm. I don't listen to that either, but the lyrics are fitting. Yeah. Okay? And so the serpentine ropes of the stuff would emerge from the medium's ear to rest in fat coils on her shoulders, and embryonic limbs and heads would drop like otherworldly stillbirths from the medium's genitals. So she's giving birth to entities that were developing, incubating inside of her. Okay? That's what sexuality does. That's what sexuality does. That's what people say. When you have sex with so many different people, you're holding on to so much different energies. And people have said that. But they're not releasing the demons. It's staying inside. And that's what also then plagues the child when they eventually have a child. All of those energies then are what that child is made up of. What kind of demon are you developing in our society? Okay? And so, according to British physicist and psychical researcher Oliver Lodge, Ritchie's encounters with ectoplasm had led him to affirm, c'est absolument absurde, mais c'est vrai. It's absolutely absurd, but it's true. Ectoplasm emerged at a time when women's bodies were under special scrutiny. Surgical gynecology allowed physicians to examine pathological conditions hidden within the female body, and medical practitioners had devised and made use of gynecological instruments like the speculum that would reveal female interiors. It was also during the period that parts of the female anatomy were being removed through procedures like the ovariotomy, a surgical design to treat phantom ailments like nymphomania and hysteria in view of such procedures, and in spite of the active exploration of the female anatomy, female physiology and behaviors remained inscrutable. Even Sigmund Freud, equipped as he was with an arsenal of analytical implements, could not by 1926 penetrate what he called the dark continent of female sexuality. It is unsurprising then that male psychical researchers of the period regarded ectoplasm, a palpable and often gynecological externalization of the spirit world, as a substance that promised to revolutionize the scientific one. Oh yeah. When you're taking, I'll tell you, abortions, taking some of the energies from that, any kind of specimen, voluntary specimen donation, yeah. Medical world, holistic world. Okay, and so then what I was saying the other day, releasing the aerosolized microbial ectoplasm demons, that was me blowing my nose. And you see the picture of those embryonic type of limbs and faces, and then you see the crotch goblins. That picture says everything. That's demonology. That's why you have all the horror movies about children who do horrific things. Okay? And so, I said the microbial demon's offspring, regardless of origination, could cause blood clots and or died suddenly. The system heating up via climate change develops rapid growth and also combo factors contributing to the Great Reset, a died suddenly or being treated until the body cannot handle the aggressive treatments. Remember, people starve the demons and their own bodies, so the little chaotic microbes eat the host, you, the parent. And so when I initially coughed out the main crazy demons a couple years ago, and I had those crazy dreams, the colorful dreams of flying, of just such iridescent backgrounds, or flying up or flying down, I'll tell you, it was like an exorcism. And so, and all then the following sicknesses thereafter, when I'm feeling basically immobilized. I can't move hardly. I can't even look beyond my eyes. Yeah, it was all hell. When you're literally releasing those demons and you allow them to come to surface, and they have to come to surface. You have to feed them if you can. That one summer, last year, not this last year, but the year before, I could barely move. When my dog was alive, I could barely move. And water would not penetrate the mycoplasma. I couldn't quench my thirst. I could barely move. I couldn't eat. I finally forced myself to go and pull out the crap because that wouldn't even move. Everything was basically stopped up. I actually had to keep blowing my nose and keep blowing to get leverage, to get the pressure to move that shit out. And that shit came out like Tootsie Rolls. It was that crazy of what was possessing me that time. And I moved so slow. I couldn't even stand up barely. That's how bad it could get. Some people are paralyzed. Some people might go blind. Some people get a heart attack or a stroke. Other people could be deaf. Okay, you never know how these little entities are going to affect any of your five senses or your vital organs on their way out the door. And that's why you have to set your body up to be able to handle that type of energy conversion, because it's pretty aggressive. And when you can't eat for a couple days, you better have something on reserve. And if you can't eat for a couple days and you're skinny and you're that sick, it's questionable if you'll survive. And so it was hell. So Food and the Method in my book, not the JJ, was what saved me. But remember, I had no past surgical trauma or heart conditions, and I had enough weight on me. I wasn't skinny. So talk to your physician, not your herbalist. And yeah, if you're allergic to milk, you got to bring that on very carefully. That's like bringing on testosterone. It means you're highly estrogenic if you're allergic to milk. And meat and eggs, yeah, that's why these chicks are so hot. They're estrogenic, but they're also going to die suddenly if they don't bring in the balancing forces of hormones. And so popular influencer Vanessa Mancini passed away in Brazil due to heart attack. Frederick Anderson is out of indefinitely due to a blood clot. He's a hockey player. And so hopefully you guys get where I'm coming from, because releasing those demons out of my body was hell the last 7 years. And guess what the system has to deal with? It'll be hell releasing the demons, and people will have to choose. You can't save anyone from the hell that you're in. You can only sympathize, take care of yourself, and vow never to be in the hell ever again. And that's exactly what I learned the last 7 years. I couldn't save a hospice patient. I couldn't save anyone who was even thinking about doing this. Someone who's in stage 3 cancer, there's no fucking way. You've been possessed. You're at stage 3 cancer. That thing is eating you up from the inside. Already ate your infrastructure. You would have to have stuff come into intravenously and eat and have that poop removed almost every single day. And you have to eat so much food and be so bloated. And when you are bringing on food to a body that's starving, it has to be done slowly. Just like the starving Ethiopians. You can't give them so much food. Their belly be so bloated. They die from too much food. So it has to be done like in small doses of food. It's a transition. Okay? But right now we have such emaciated people out there that they can't handle. They can barely handle, and that's why they're into the spicy stuff. That's why they're vegetarians. It's all they can eat. They occasionally will eat some meat, but it's the milk and the cheese and the eggs and the pasta. And when you're craving that and you're able to keep that down and it's giving you mass, and you can pull out the crap and blow your nose and cough and sneeze, and you know it's going to be a process, and it's not something that you take a break on, because you can't afford to take breaks in this environment because it's very accelerated. You literally have to match the energy of the environment of taking on substance more than what the environment is doing taking away substance. Your desire to live must be so much more than those around you's desire to die, because they will distract you from living. They will find ways, because maybe some of them can afford to live off their reserves and you can't. And they're going to tempt you to go and follow them to do whatever. That's what some people are facing. They're sacrificing themselves for their friends. So I posted the Facebook reels of the demon showing you the people of the past smoking opium and cannabis. I'm not saying that the demons are developed from that, but everything is interchangeable. They've done great resets of the past, and there's the whole flood. But they've used the different fragrances and the different cannabis and herbs to quell and make, another army of things to keep the other demons at bay. But what's keeping those demons that are newly developed at bay? And then it's just a never-ending domino effect, that then there has to be a great reset. More demons. Okay? And there's medical, holistic exorcism, cancer, surgical exorcism. That's why I posted this Facebook reel that shows the priest with his cross trying to do an exorcism. And they've been doing this for centuries. So I understand what the surgical system's for. And then the ectoplasm of microbial fornication disease. When you're going into large groups of people, you're getting the ectoplasm. You are breathing it in. That's why when the system changed the frequencies, and I'm out there in public, I was getting drunk off the environment. I was getting drunk off all of the ectoplasm when I was at the DMV. Everyone's sitting there waiting for their driver's license and registration, and I'm just like, woo, like freaking trippy. Yeah, I was high off the environment. It's not just the radiation or the climate change, it's the energy that's in the environment. It's the microbial fornication. And so it develops bacteria, offspring. And so that's why I show then the whole succession of videos with the crowds and the microbes and then the ectoplasm. So you saw how those are all related. And that's why the system wanted you to wear a mask in the beginning. And then you're like, well, the masks don't work. I mean, they might they might lessen the payload, but yeah, I mean, entities will get in if they want to get in. Okay, you're not 100% immune to the environment. Everybody is exposed to the environment in some way. And so climate change is when there is so much light, it casts out the darkness. You have to support that light so you don't become the darkness. Okay? So that's why it's so aggressive out there as far as the energy, especially when the sun's shining. And right now we're in a warming trend this week, but next week it's going to be completely the opposite. And so the light that's going on right now, people are dropping like flies because it's so bright and it's so aggressive and it's so like you're hypnotized with developing so much growth. People can't handle the growth. They don't have the infrastructure for it, or it's aging them aggressively. And it's okay to burn brightly, but you don't want a supernova. And so I said this: aerosolized ectoplasm. When you walk into a crowded room or a crowded space, this is what you inhale. You're inhaling, and you don't even know it. Some people get sick from it. Other people get certain kinds of awakenings, like I did, about checking in and what does your partner do around the house and just what you take them for granted for, and when they're gone, will you be able to do it, right? And so some people die suddenly, and this is also causes sexual diversity, fertility, and sexual reproduction. And so in a highly activated environment such as this right now, this type of thing is accelerated. What? The ectoplasm. That's why some of these animals are even more intelligent. I've seen on Facebook Reels, some of these animals are fixing the bed. Like actually fixing the bed. Their kitten messed up the bed sheets, and the mother cat is actually intelligently fixing and straightening the bed sheets. So this environment is even making the animals smarter and more activated. Whereas before, it wasn't as influential, right? Right now, the environment is that influential. When you have activated your immune system, your body will release anything excessive and potentially possessive. But if you have a sluggish release process and you're using other remedies to stop the body from releasing, then you're incubating excessive possessive energies inside. Right now, yes, the environment is that influential. And you could be holding potentially possessive entities within, and that's what causes the cancer disease, chronic illness, and even the aggressive aging process. People inhale diverse aerosolized ectoplasm, and this is what ages them as well as what makes them bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Obesity is aggressive amount of fertility and so much diverse spirits in their body, and also cause disease if they don't understand how to release those demons. And so, yes, you could be very skinny and be cannibalized by the aggressive energies in the body. And of course, your practices of relieving pain and suffering. And so that's why my information is so important if you can handle a type of exorcism. Believe me, I'm not as crazy as people think I am. Because I understand now the world of the science world. My dad's a scientist. We were raised Jewish. My mother's a psychotherapist. And the law, and she's a behavioral scientist, but dad is a chemical scientist, and with a law background, and with Judaism, and studying demonology, because Judaism is not just studying demonology, it's the other side of it, atonement, life, right? The land of milk and honey. Milk is life, honey is antibiotic. I understand the balance of both sides. That's why I put myself in Jerusalem, because they understand both sides. The Middle East is important to everything. Without the Middle East, you get chaos. They are the balancing forces. And so I understand the science world and the spirit world, they work hand in hand. That's why the Catholic Church, they understand the science world because they're in the medical system and the spirit world. They have the Vatican. They understand the Nephilim, the demons that people produce when fertility is that out of control. And so those two worlds are two sides of the same coin. And that's the best way I can explain it. Believe me, I can't even believe I understand this the way I do. And so the ectoplasm is also what causes people's cancers when it's trapped inside the body, trapped energies. The invading spirit developed its own energy and form, and it's fast moving. That's why aggressive oncology can be deadly to those who don't have what it takes. Skinny people will have a hard time. I can assure you. When you get diagnosed with cancer and you're a skinny person, now it's like you better pull out that shit. You better eat food, because that's the only way you're going to save yourself. Because even then, if you did get that oncology and you controlled it, some people only have 2 years. There's also proof in this post. Well, that somebody had 2 years. They had oncology in 2021. They had radiation and chemotherapy for a respiratory cancer or a lung cancer. And they are also vegan, vegetarian, against milk. Probably against meat too. And they didn't survive the treatments. They could have survived the cancer if they just fed themselves. And could just eating help them out? Well, they would probably felt so bloated that they would have stayed away. So no, they wouldn't have done what I would have done. But maybe food could have helped them. Maybe the food could have. Maybe they would have shit one time. Maybe they had diarrhea, and that would have diarrheaed out the cancer. And they wouldn't have the cancer. But the reason why they have the cancer is because they're fucking skinny. What's the body going to carry out when there's no substance? That's what I'm saying. Food is important. Food brings in the nutrients, and it's a carrier force to carry out the disease. That's what milk is for. That's what meat is for. That's what oatmeal. I don't eat as much oatmeal now. I bought groceries today, $130 worth of groceries just for myself. What did I buy? I bought a bunch of stew meat, and I bought sour cream, mushrooms, onions. So I'll make a beef stroganoff. I have noodles, those little egg noodles. And so I'm going to make that for dinner tonight. And then I'll be eating that every single day. And I already have fruit juice. I have little cheese sticks for a snack. But that's pretty much what I'm living off of. Right? Because I have substance to me. And I have cream too from the coffee. And so that's a carrot. And I also still have a lot of oatmeal, a lot of leftover oatmeal. Okay? And so that's the carry force out. So if I have disease and excessive growth, I have to bring in the nutrients, and those nutrients and the food also, the byproducts of that food is also carrying out disease. That's why you need the weight. If you don't have the weight on you, what is your body going to live off? What's the reserves when you're that fucking skinny? When you're so obese, you have too many reserves, that those entities are at war with each other. That's a lot of diversity. That's a lot of ectoplasm that's turned into infrastructure. And that infrastructure may be working against you and could be melting the collagen and turning it into gelatin and weakening your vital organs, weakening the actual core. Because you can have a lot of infrastructure out there, but it's not actually serving the purpose of the community. It's just taking and taking. It's like, you have concentric circles in the middle, like your central district, your metropolitan district. And then you have all the concentric circles of the commercial and the industrial, and then the suburbs. And when there's so many suburbs out there that are not really contributing to the actual centralized district, then they're just feeding off the community and tearing down the infrastructure. So the system is trying to control the outer concentric circles so they're not completely decimating the core, the metropolitan district, the factories, the commercial, the industrial. And even then, the commercial and the factories and the industrial have to be regulated, so that way it's not destroying the suburbs out there, destroying the workforce. And so it's a balancing force. And so Sometimes the energies inside of people possess them, causing bad choices and reactions to all triggers in the environment. That's why the medical system exists, to control the possession in people. Sometimes they make it worse, and you have to be put down gently and humanely. Sometimes people make it worse on themselves, and they have to be put down gently and humanely. And some people take themselves out because of bad choices. Whether it's just by an accident, or they did something to themselves and caused a situation. Yeah. And so what is ectoplasm? There is biology, the more viscous, clear outer layer of the cytoplasm in amoeboid cells, or a supernatural viscous substance that is supposed to exude from the body of a medium during a spiritualistic trance and from a material from the manifestation of spirits. And so Ron was saying that stuff won't make in the new world. Frequency too low. Absolutely. When you're not activating your immune system to release the demons, you have low frequency in your body. You have to have food to heighten the frequency to then release the low vibration energy. It doesn't mean that you don't eat food and you go out in the sun and become high frequency and go or run marathons on very little food and very little substance, because even that can be mistaken as, oh, I'm a high vibrating person. High vibrations, I'm all organic and all this other shit. No, you gotta be high vibration, but are you going to support that? So that way the high vibration is not going to cannibalize you. Okay? And so there's that. Dark science. Oh. I don't know what that was there. I don't even remember what that was. Huh. There was something in dark science that I posted that they took down or they blocked me from that post. I don't know what it was. Huh. So there's our favorite movie. But that's okay. Whatever. I post stuff, people see that what I post and what I don't know, and they're just like, either they block me or they take down the post. Okay. And I don't remember even what that is, but I don't care. They can just look at the group. Okay. So let me just go back to that. Sorry. And so, yeah, if you want to survive the next transition, this is when I really thought about it, you're going to have to be more home than not, and you'll have to lessen your public interaction with the world, because the amount of offspring developing while you're trying to release the demons, past demons, will be very hard to manage unless you stay home, stay safe, and release those demons and be sick more than what you are taking on when you're out in public. That's what it's going to take, because it's highly accelerated environment. People are taking on so many more demons than they can release, and it's eating them up on the inside. And so everyone out there hanging out with people all the time, keeping up relations with the world. So all those who have not released past demons, past lifetimes, thanks for your service. That's where I say thank you for your service, because it really is a war out there. Okay. And so, yeah. And so I shared that post that I said about checking in with people and being aware of what your significant other does. Because at some point, those who are serious in the J world and you actually do save yourself, and you kind of see the writing on your wall around your friends and family who aren't really going to save themselves, eventually it's going to happen. They're going to pass away someday. But they're thinking, well, why don't you think you're going to pass away? Because I don't go out there taking on more energy than I can release. And when I do out there, I feel it. And I have to come back home and release those demons and be sick. That's what I felt like on Friday night. I was actually sick Friday night, and I had to really relax on Saturday. Yesterday, I had to really relax. I thought we would go shopping yesterday, but no, we went this morning. But I was tired. because I took on so much of that ectoplasm, causing the fertility, the mucus. It was insane. Imagine when you still have worlds in your body that you haven't released from generational trauma, from just generations of your DNA, your genetic line, and from all the different remedies you ever did, from all the different things you ever done, what your family's done, what the medical holistic energy healing world has done, what everything. And so, yeah, I've felt it all. And so, and it was a lot. And so, so the post, I shared that post of when people finally die around you and they're done and they're gone and you're by yourself. Could you do it on your own? Do you know what it takes to deal with winterizing your house if you live in a snow country? Okay? Do you have what it takes to do that? Do you know the condition your heaters are in, your air conditioners are in? Do you know the condition of your septic tank if you have one, or of your piping system? Do you know the condition of your foundation, of anything that could possibly go wrong that you depended on your significant other to go and manage? Okay? Those are the things that we women have to think about. And so that came up the other day after I left that restaurant. Okay? And so, yeah. So all the thoughts are the offspring from that evolution of those microbial fornication, from that public fornication at the microbial level. And so when we breathe in the environment, especially a very diverse one, in a highly activated environment, then you're taking on so many people's fears and anxieties and diseases and gifts, because then it has to assimilate with your world. And so then the world becomes an enhancement versus a detriment that you have to protect yourself from. However, too much public interaction can be a detriment, hence why people die. They don't release the demons. They have a lifetime full of experiences and diseases and gifts and anxieties and fears, and it consumes them. And so one has to balance out the world and themselves, or else the world will consume them. Public microbial fornication develop offspring. The offspring are new experiences, thoughts, feelings, and diseases, fears, and anxieties. Mucus is the body. The feeling of thoughts are the spirits. That's why I release the demons, so the world doesn't consume me and take over. And so I need to write that down. What is it? Offspring are I'm going to change around. Thoughts and feelings of new experiences and people, and mucus is the body, equals the body. Now imagine that mucus coming together, coagulating something that is intelligent. That's called a child. And so mucus is the body, the feelings and thoughts are the spirits. Right, okay. And I'll just offspring goes spirits too. I have to really clean this out. I'll figure it out. And so that's why I release the demons, so the world doesn't consume me and take over and turn into cancer and disease, right? And so that's why I eat, prepare my body to release those demons and feed my soul, my body. And it is a war out there, okay? And you have to fight the battle within. Some people fight the battle out there. They go fight other men's wars. They go conscript themselves into their service, and we thank them for their service. But you got to make sure that the worlds that you have been introduced to don't take over and destroy you. Okay? And so I'm not going to read that about women. You got to think about that. And so I said, wow, I blew my nose so much last night. I was coughing and congested. Nose finally cleared, but went out to eat with my hubby on Friday night and came back a head full environment. And Pip was like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. And that's when I discovered that whole, public microbial fornication. I actually watch this video, the whole one, because I was up all night on Friday night. Viper Heroine, The Life and Death of River Phoenix, and there's no commercials, but he was exposed to a lot of sexual energy even as children, because his parents were part of a cult called the Children of God, and he was exposed to a lot, and that's what gave him the talent of actor and the demons of the drugs and all of that. And so you see what demons can do. They can make you so talented and so smart and so aware, and also be tortured to death, to the point where what people say, that speculative that Johnny Depp was somewhere, but there was no proof in that situation. But he was very talented, and he went through hell, and he died prematurely. He died really early. He died in 1993, just right when I was entering into high school. And we watched Mosquito Coast. I watched that with my dad. I never watched My Private Idaho or other movies but Mosquito Coast was the one that I watched, and Stand By Me. And so I was always really interested in River Phoenix. And now his brother, Joaquin, is extremely talented and has his own demons. Okay, so Hollywood, they have dealt with some shit. And so this lady over there in the UK, mom of 5, who wakes up at 4:30 a.m. to start chores, walks out on her family. I don't fucking blame her. Remember when I was getting up at 3:30 in the morning to make my husband coffee? Remember that? And people were like, why doesn't he make his own coffee? Because that's what we arranged a couple years ago. Because, if I wasn't working and he was, I would be up there with him, making him coffee, doing stuff, making myself useful if I wasn't out there. So, yeah, so we don't do that anymore. He gets and makes his own coffee because I make myself useful in other ways. And we both calm down in some of these really rigid social constructs. But she walked out on her family of 5. At least she didn't kill her children. Susan Smith killed her children. The other lady drowned her children. Okay? And so now women are getting smarter. They don't need to kill their children. Just walk away. Let the system take care of them. Or the husband. And she didn't leave them, unattended. She left them with her husband. What's the husband going to do? Shit's going to happen. Shit's going to happen. And so someone had a testimony of hives or some type of growth, and that's great. Penny, thank you. All right. All right, I'm not going to go too much into back in the 1500s. We know there's courtesans back then. There are girls that are going to be tempted to make more than $42,000 a year. They're going to be tempted to make $1 million just by showing off her boobs. And she'll be pigeonholed, because what else is she going to do? What else is she going to do? Right now, we have girls, if you get fired from a good paying job, okay, there's going to be an article about it. Someone's going to pick up on it. Now, if you're going into OnlyFans and you never went into a good paying job, and then you click off your OnlyFans account and you go legit, I don't know. Somebody has your pictures. It's just a matter of time. If you do anything that would be against the system, that those pictures probably would come out. And so if you're going to use OnlyFans as a stepping stone to be legit and work within the confines of the system, okay, I can kind of see where if you didn't do something that would then cause the system to pull those pictures out and leverage you. So there's ways to play this, but if you quit a legit job like teaching to go into OnlyFans, how are you going to come back from that? How are you going to do that? How? I don't know. We'll see. And so I said, the system is showing you examples. If you stay traditional, your girls will only have 2 choices. Sex worker dying from cancer or wife dying from cancer. Wake up, parents. Your girls really need you now. Not much hope for these young girls because you could basically predict the future for some people on Facebook. What are they being groomed for? To be a wife and a mother? Maybe go to college, and to do what? And there's some of these girls that do get a college degree and they're working at a bar. They have a degree. They said they had a degree in speech pathology or speech therapy. Why aren't you working in the speech therapy world? Because either the bar pays more or it's just too hard to find the jobs. Maybe you need a master's, not just a bachelor's. Maybe you have to do some kind of, I don't know, like, what is it? You get these certain amount of hours where you're volunteering intern. So you get to practice, and then you can actually take on clients in speech therapy or something. And so these girls, they work in bars because you know why? It's because they're hot. And they get a better return on their investment of being hot working in a bar with a degree than they do working in the field of degree. That's what these girls are faced with. And they have boyfriends. And so this is why you don't want to recommend your children having children, because when you're this skinny, and this girl, she died from radiation treatment and from cancer and from chemotherapy, and you have a few kids and you're against the food supply, it might be just 2 years since your treatment that it might give you 2 years to live, and then you die suddenly. Okay, so I posted that about this girl, Jennifer Appleford. Her Facebook is open. Okay. People are afraid of predators, but they dress their daughters up as bait, basically. Yeah. Observe how sons treat their mothers like slaves, and if mothers do not speak up for themselves, this is how the sons will treat all women. And if the mother divorced a beast like that, she just repeated the cycle in her son. Observe how daughters kiss up to daddy to buy her shit, daddy's girl. This is now how daughters will treat all men like an ATM to manipulate with cute looks, faces, and sex, and use sex as a weapon until the weapon is turned on her. Weak men are easily manipulated by beauty and cuteness, especially from their own daughters. Now look at children interact with different family members and watch the manipulation. It's insane to watch, and now you know what kind of demons you just produced. The training begins at home, and the government did not do it. You did it as a parent. That's why they're in a great reset. And so time to escape the matrix if you haven't been eaten alive yet. And so the J world is a strategy of the process to be set free from all types of slavery. And when you're not a slave to the fertility in your body, mind, spirit, and family, friends, politics, religion, and science, life begins when the slavery ends. But you still stay committed unless it is that bad. My world is the transition out of that life. Okay? And so that's the thing with people who say like, oh, I'm single because I'm finally healed now. I don't have to be trauma bonded. Do you realize that I'm still married to my husband? We've been around for 12 years, right? He's seen the changes in me, evolution. I've been pretty vocal about my evolution around sex, love, even division of labor. And he's heard everything. He's seen, I don't block him from any of these posts. He's seen my posts. He's read them. I don't think he watches my videos, but I don't hide anything from him. I'm not ashamed of how I am now trying to figure out what I want now with my relationship with him, because I've had someone email me and say, Jillian, all you are is just a piece for him. All you do is you plunk on your computer and you wait for your husband to fuck you. That's what someone said to me through an email. Some misogynist guy said that to me, that all I am is just a fuck thing for my husband. So you see how that kind of mentality is in most men and in women. Either they're the broad mare or they are the thing their husband screws or boyfriend screws when it's convenient. Yeah, we've been set up for that. Women have been set up for that. They are the courtesan with some education Or they're the broad mare and they're a slave to their in-laws, slave to their own family. If she doesn't have a dowry, then she's a slave. She is a slave, but it's nice quarters because, hey, it's better that she's in a nice house with a nice job, that she works for the family. Her kids are relatively well taken care of. Husband relatively respects her. But she's trapped. She can't get out. And she will keep having babies until there's nothing left. Well, in my world, there is so much more than that, than being the sacrificial lamb and a slave to somebody's desires and a slave to somebody's family. Women, I think, in my opinion, need to think of themselves something more than just a sex thing or a broad mare. Okay? And so I've done that as far as being married. I don't have to be single to do that. I can actually develop boundaries and develop myself in partnership with somebody. You see how that works? My husband has met me halfway. He has. He actually has really proven the last few weeks, he has met me halfway in this. I'm not trying to take too much from him. He's not trying to take too much from me. There is an actual respect. Long time coming, because most men, especially alpha males, are trained in a very specific way. And they will keep with those expectations until the female finally says, I can work with you, but I can't sacrifice my life for you. But I can work with you. And it's enjoyable for both, without one person cannibalizing the other, or totally withholding from the other. There's a way to give and take without taking more than your share and causing someone to die in the process. Not that they would kill you, but the fact that there's more energy being taken than being retained, well, there's an indirect way that relationships cannibalize the other person. There is no balancing force. When that's your party buddy and you both are screwing each other to death, there is no regulation. Somebody's going to die first. Whoever has been utilized more than what the other person has. And sometimes it's the woman, other times it's the man. It just depends on all the different factors. Their lifestyle, their belief system, predisposed issues, everything. Okay? So I can develop a working, respectable relationship without having to be single. I can actually release the trauma, even if we were bonded traumatically in the beginning for whatever reason. You can still release the bounds of trauma in a relationship. You don't have to be single to do that, because even single people are trauma bonded to their friends, like I was saying a couple minutes ago, to their activism, their religion, their politics, their science. So how are you actually going to heal? When you can actually be on your own. If somebody happens to pass away that you're next to, that you don't have to replace them even for companionship. Because what kind of demon are you bringing? What kind of person are you going to break in? I told my husband that when we were actually at the restaurant. We were talking about something like that. And I'm like, honey, he's like, Jillian, if you happen to pass away, would you want me to go hang out with someone? I'm like, no. But I'm like, I mean, it wouldn't matter. If I was gone, I don't care what he does. I wouldn't care. He'd do whatever he'd do. But then I said to him, honey, if you happen to leave, I'm not trying to bring somebody in this house here. Because what kind of demons will I have to deal with? What kind of person will I have to break in? Break into my way of doing shit. I'm not going to have some dude come in here, replacing my husband, and playing those same fucking games. You know how many all guys out there have been trained, especially hetero men, have been trained in a very specific way. And they're not going to take second fiddle, especially not with someone like me. They don't want to be looked at as a bitch. Okay? So there's no fucking way I'm replacing my husband with anyone, because then you got to deal with all their bullshit. So so I would be on my own, and I'd be okay with that. And I would become stronger from that. But right now I'm in a training grounds of figuring out what it is I have to take care of in a house that a man would normally take care of. And that's right now what women need to look at when you're in the J world. What is it that your man does that you hadn't been able to do, but now you might have to be stuck with that? Because people in the J world, we're all over the place. People around here, even in my area, they're either in a family relationship or they're too far away. And do you really want to depend upon somebody else to do shit for you? Hey, go have coffee with them. That's fine. But when it comes to survival, you've got to be on your own. You literally have to be on your own. And so, yeah, when we are grooming our kids to be a wife and mother, or a sex toy, people say they have to protect their kids from all these crazy predators. Who's protecting these kids from their own parents, grooming them to be wife, mothers, brood mares, and sex toys? Many parents breed predators in our population. Who's protecting these kids from parents who are breeding predators? You're so afraid of the government, maybe you should be afraid of you and your grandchildren or children. And so John was saying he's teaching his oldest about predatory behaviors in people. And I'm sure he's hopefully he's even recognizing even potential predatory behavior in his own children, because every child has some kind of predatory instinct. It's just built into them. Survival, instinct to, survival. Needs, wants, whatever. And so if John recognizes his own predatory behaviors, everybody has them. Even me, that's why I had to separate myself from people, because I can be very predatory. It's instinct. And when you recognize that's what you do, then you don't want to cannibalize someone. You purposely separate yourself from a situation that could turn into something like that. That's why I have no one next to me working with. I don't work with Bridget. I don't work with Kevin Van Rompuy. I work with my husband, who is just as strong as I am. So that way I don't cannibalize somebody weaker than me. Okay? So recognizing your own predatory behavior is going to serve you so well. Because then you have room to speak about other people's predatory instincts. And so somebody had to say it, right? No one talks about people grooming victims and predators in our society. Nobody talks about it. But when you're grooming your child to be a wife and mother, you're grooming her to be a victim. And if you're grooming her to be a sex thing, you're grooming her to be a predator, because she'll use that. And so, yeah. And so if they do talk about what is it, the blame other person, they chose not to acknowledge their part in everything. What is it? All things people must be under the influence for. Politics, religion, and science, and drugs. Religion is the most influential drug ever, full of victims. Okay? And so, and that's where a lot of the victims and the predators end up. They end up in the politics, in the science, and in the religion. Now go look at all your different religions. People are blaming somebody else or developing fertility. And they're using the word of God, whatever that is, to justify their beliefs. So getting together with a partner needs to be redefined. Many are under the spell of love, sex, family, and abuse, under the influence, and then died suddenly. That is politics, religion, science, spirituality, and many religions are all about destroying the woman. Both men and women destroy their daughters. Many, many old-style religions do this. Many, many, many. Why do you think we have so many wars going on? The system had to scale things down without walking into your house. And so if they can get you sexualized, that's how you will destroy your own family. And so these kids are not prepared for the world they live in. That's why you see so much human trafficking. Lost kids turn into missing adults who have no idea the world they live in, and they don't bother to protect themselves because they live in a fantasy world. It's fucking Cinderella. And so here's the domestic violence. Women who let men brutalize them sexually gave the men license to do that to other women. And so men think it's their right to sexually abuse their own girlfriends and wives. So you can imagine a guy looks good on paper. This girl meets this guy at her job, and he has a nice family, and he looks good on paper. He has a degree, and he's very polite to his girlfriend's family, and they like him, and he's so well spoken. Okay? But he has some pretty evil shit, or he does some pretty crazy shit in the bedroom. Like pretty crazy, and wants his wife to do that. And he's normalized it. She's been trained to do this by her own family. Everyone's open about sexuality in her own family. And so she lets him do whatever he wants to all of her orifices. There are marriages like that. There are girlfriend-boyfriend situations like that already. That nobody asked that young girl who's 19 and 20, what goes on behind closed doors? Because nobody's business, right? Your sexual activity is no one else's business. But can you imagine what some of these guys and girls have normalized in their significant other? And these girls are getting brutalized by their husbands, by their wives. That is what you are grooming your daughters for parents, sending them into the sexual abuse hell of entitlement. And then out pops a kid. There's the demon of that relationship. But everything looks good on paper, right? They're married. They had a nice wedding, a nice family. Everyone looked beautiful. The reception was nice. And they have crazy ass sex, and they've done this and that. And she's forced to do this stuff because she can't say no. Because then he'll manipulate her into saying yes. Do you really want your daughters faced with being told by their boyfriend it is normal to do all these horrible sexual acts that they do? What the hell are you setting your daughters and sons up for? No one talks about it. It's taboo. Some fucking evil shit, man. And women do not speak up because it's frowned upon. And Johnny, Billy, and Susie would never do that, right? Everyone does missionary, right? Out there? Everyone does missionary. And it happens that quick. No, people go. I'll tell you, even the IFL Science, all the different articles are like, oh, how long is the right? How long is too long? How short is too short? And so people are normalizing thinking that you should have, sex for hours and hours and hours, just brutalizing those holes for hours and hours until cancer happens to those holes. Anal cancer, vaginal cancer, cervical cancer, ovarian cancer, and then you're having children, and then breast cancer. It's a fucking evil shit. And women do not speak up because it's frowned upon. And Johnny and Billy and Susie would never do that. Yeah, right. You think it was wise to have kids nowadays? Really? Kids are sold into sexual slavery by their own family, and no one talks about that. Marriage gives it credibility. Remember, I know exactly what I walked into in my world. I knew what all the things, and I've tempered so much. And people know what people expect if they're not being challenged. And so even though I talk about it, I've tempered that in my own relationship. Oh, I've played the games. I wouldn't necessarily say I like the whole anal shit. No, hell no. I think that only happened twice in my whole lifetime. Nope. That's for exit, not entrance. You know how many women do so much anal for their husbands and boyfriends? And it's normalized because porn industry? That's what I'm saying. No one talks about this. And then you talk about it, it's all normalized as, oh yeah, that's birth control. You're taking a direct inject of somebody else's demons right into your colon, causing fertility, developing more demons, cancer, disease, chronic illness, autoimmune disorders. Everybody's playing a part. That is why there are sexual predators all over your neighborhood. You bred them. The right-wing Republicans bred sexual predation, and the left-wing bred courtesans, the victims. You all did it to yourself. I feel for your children, and it's brutal out there. That is why the system is changing. If you can, make learning fun, give them another way out if they can survive their own hormonal drives. And you see these kids are running away from home. And like, oh, well, my kid, she's a daughter, and she's somewhere on the northwest side. How do they know? Because her boyfriend, who might be 5 or 6 years older than her, who probably sexualized her already, is housing her. If you have survived an abusive husband and posting that all over Facebook, and you have a son, will your son repeat what his dad did to you? What are you grooming, mothers out there? This is why you be careful posting shit about how abused you were by your husband or boyfriend, and you have children, because now the system knows the cycle of violence will repeat, and you are transparent. That's why you keep your shit under wraps. When you act like a victim on Facebook and you have children, imagine what your children are dealing with. Because how are you going to go and relieve your situation? I'm telling you, you have to be able to release those demons and not post them all over Facebook, because you're showing what now your children have to deal with. I'm not saying you're abusing your children, but who the fuck knows what goes on? And when someone has been abused on such a level that the only way they can get it out is all over Facebook, you need to go see a professional and get those demons out that way. Okay? But it's a trip to watch people post their victim status, and they have children. So try not to show your cards, because you think that you're getting. Because when people post that stuff, they think that they're teaching somebody out there who might be an abuser in a lesson. No, you're showing them that you haven't healed, and then your children will be subject to the same bullshit. And you don't want to put your kids in that position. You need to really heal yourself through a professional. Okay? As you know, having children from trauma only repeats the trauma for generations. Okay? Which is why by 2050, most of the West will be infertile. Someone must stop the bleeding. Because I've seen women post on there, oh, my ex-husband did this to me, and she's in a church. She has a son, and she caters to her son. And that son may do stuff for her, but her son also expects his mother to perform as far as duties. Okay? And she caters to the son. So the son, who has the demons of the dad within him, what is she producing in her own son? And so the single mom syndrome, the unmarried concubine or girlfriend, the abused wife, the broadmare, courtesans and broadmares are still slaves to the system. Men don't speak out, women don't speak out, and everyone's under the assumption everything's great until somebody dies or goes missing, or they pretend everything's okay until it isn't. And people party until oblivion, cracking stupid jokes on each other. This is how society operates, programming their daughters and sons to be sexualized into the roles of courtesans and broadmares, married to out-of-control predators, all relative, enslaved by the in-laws and even her own family and society. So what is the future for your kids? This is their future. And shit happens behind closed doors to both men and women. Brutal stuff. And women don't say anything until they end up in a homeless shelter or domestic violence shelter, or they have a child. And now they need God to help them, and they're training their sons to be abusers, using God, country, and religion as a justification, just like her abuser. That's how you know how bad it is out there. People are dying for the compliments of how good of a mother they are to their child, and they serve their children hand and foot, turning them into entitled con artists. When you're basking in the glow of someone telling you that you're a good mother, this is where I'm like, I bet you're not. Mothers who have children needing children to complete them most likely will not be a good mother. It's because they are suffering, forced into that lifestyle. and they can't go back. You can only imagine what mothers go through to have their children, especially if they've been married and divorced several times. Or they're under the influence, because that's the only way they can cope with the life they have forced upon them, they force themselves into. Remember, they're trapped. And they'll never admit it, because to them it would mean they are a failure. And the other person would resist them changing, even talk smack about them, talk to their children, take their children away from them. That's why it's fucked up war, because for anyone who is trapped within children and family, their children are used as leverage. Their whole life is used as leverage. And the demons come out. And if anyone tries to change, everyone will stop the change. The poor soul is now a whipping boy or a girl. So you can imagine some of the posts out there where they talk about narcissism and stuff. They could be talking about their husbands. Their husbands are narcissistic to them because they can't get out of that relationship. They have children. They have businesses. They have things that go on. And so the only way they can get out their frustrations is if they talk cryptically about what they think could be somebody else, but it's about their husband, but you'd never know because it's not talking directly to whoever it is that they are having a problem with. But it's usually their husbands. But again, they can't say anything, so they use Facebook as a buffer. So is a corset on OnlyFans much better than a family? I guess if that's how you want to end up. Neither is desirable. Okay, the best gift you can give your kids, show them how bad it can be. Take the fucking time and tell them your story and show them how bad it could be. And maybe that might not be enough. You might have to save yourself and let your children be sacrificed to the system, because you can only save yourself. And that was that movie, Dangerous Beauty. Okay? And so that's why it's so important, if you can, mom and dad, release the demons. Save yourself. There's no guarantee your kids or your grandkids are going to be saving themselves, but at least you now can see the mistakes that were made the last 6,000 years. And you could potentially redirect even your own genetic line, which could be just you. You could be the only one out of your family of 20 that will survive this great reset. The system only needs one person out of their family. Or some families will be totally gone. Some families will not be around. Because everyone in that family doesn't have what it takes to evolve. They're all too damaged. And so if you understand my world, and you have the infrastructure and the support, hell yeah, I'm talking to you. And it's probably very few and far between very far between of people like you that are around. And that's okay. Remember, their system is geared towards 500 million in the future, and we still have to go through Africa. They will be the predominant population boom. Africa. And so as the West is scaled down the next 27 years, give or take, and we're going through it now. You're seeing people all over the Europe, the West, third world countries, South America, North America, people in Brazil, UK, Scotland, same thing, America, Canada, England. I don't hear too much about Russia because they're not really in the world. I don't hear too much about North Korea. But you see people in the West and all the different Americas, they'll be dropping like flies. 15-year-olds to 27-year-olds to 74-year-olds. People in Hollywood. Just save yourself, but we have 27 years and it's going to keep increasing until most people are infertile. Save yourself. All right. That's all I'm going to say, but remember ectoplasm. When you're walking into a crowded room, you are breathing in the spirits of everything, and if you don't release those demons in the way that I have explained, you are incubating so many demon spirits, and yes, they will infiltrate into your potential future child if you happen to be one of those that want to get pregnant. And will that child survive this great reset? It's questionable even the children today that are living will even survive their childhood. All right, bye.